Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. And so welcome to the 2022 orientation. It's crazy. It's April, or it's actually almost April, and we're talking about next August. And who would have thought, I mean, thinking about our school year that we've had so far, that we would have made it to March 30th here. And I just got to say again, that parents and students of Prairie Ridge and actually in Ankeny Community School District have been wonderful working together, understanding that this is just like this broadcast here. We've never done things like this before. A lot of great things have come out of the pandemic, and there's a lot of things that I'm really good to let go of. So seeing people face to face will be one that I really look forward to having in the orientation as we get going on this. Again, please answer questions as you have them. And then also just a reminder, we are recording this session. So if your video pops up in the bottom right, you might want to shut that down a little bit. It's up to you. So a couple of things is, welcoming all of you. This is kind of an exciting time because this is when we are, we got a little malfunction already here. Nope. A little technical difficulty already. There we go. All right, so this is the time that we are working on, we transition from 5 elementary schools into 1 building. What we love about this is our transition starts here in the spring here. So typically we've already been out to the schools. We've talked with the kids. We've met with the 5th grade teachers. The 5th grade teachers are outstanding ambassadors for us, and also to help with our students in their transition. So if you ever get a chance, just know that the 5th grade teachers are doing a great job of preparing them, not just academically, but social, emotionally, as well as just kind of going through all the things that what does it look like at Prairie Ridge Middle School. We know that transitioning from an elementary school to their 612 school can be a little scary at times, but anxious, not just for the students, but we definitely know for the parents, especially if this is your first time going through this. And so what we want to go through is just kind of talk through a lot of things that are higher concerns, I guess I would say, and tell us that I want you guys to know that we understand that our focus is safety for our children first, social emotional second, and then academics will come on the heels of all that. So we're looking at the whole child, and we hope that you get a vibe of that as we're operating through the presentation today, and also as you work with us. So yes, we have 5 schools going into 1 school, and I want you to know that throughout this month, we will be visiting, the 3 administrators will be visiting all the schools in the classroom, so the students get to know us on their turf, their comfort surroundings, and then get to talk with us and interact with us and ask us questions and so forth as well. So I'm sure you're going to be hearing about it because we do have we have a good time when it comes to that. So here's Prairie Ridge. This is our school. This is what your child would be. This is the first entrance into the 612 operations. And in the 612 operations, we'd like to think of it as 1 school, just 3 different buildings. We work very hard as administrators and staff in the 3 buildings to make sure that we have a common language, common experiences for our children, easing them from the elementary experience into the secondary high school experience along the way. We're very intentional with what we do. And we really tried hard not only to support the students in the building, but also their families. We believe that when it comes to the optimal experience for our student, it has to come from all of the adults that goes along with that. Well, we know that it'll be tough for us to provide the utopian type of educational experience, but we work very hard to get it as close as possible to that. We also want you to know that we understand and we remember being in middle school. So if you want a good laugh or a chuckle, whatever the case might be, this is one that we find very humorous every time that we have this presentation. I also invite you to go back and share your middle school picture with your students so that they can see that there's always, we think of it as there's hope at the end of the tunnel. So here we are. I'm Jim Wichman. You can see the principal there, and Miss Bruns and Miss Steffen are going to be popping in here in a little bit. So we don't look quite like this anymore, but very similar. In fact, it was just a few years ago. For me, it was a lot of years ago that this is what we look like. And I can assure you, middle school hasn't changed. People talk about the technology, people talk about the times, the fast, the pace, and all this stuff. It really hasn't changed. Our middle school students are entering adolescence, and the chemical changes that go through their brain's full of being the development stages of it. We understand that, and we all choose to be here to support our students. So we do know that eventually we evolve, and we evolve into who we are today. And these are people that are going to be serving your students. Next year, While we have 3 administrators right here, next year your lead administrator is going to be Miss Andrea Bruns for the 6th grade, and Miss Kathleen Steffen is going to be the lead administrator for 7th grade. And as we operate through that, that just gives you another point of contact. That doesn't mean you can't contact any of the others. We work as a team. We serve as a team. We just want to give you a main contact who you can reach out to. And Miss Andrea Bruns will be that person for you next year as your child enters into 6th grade. I mentioned safety, social emotional needs. We have to get that addressed and supported. Our students come with an invisible suitcase full of whatever happened that day or whatever is happening in their life. And so we need to honor that. We have an outstanding support staff, not just from our teachers, but our all-star lineup is here. And you'll see that the names are below, but also the last names that they serve. So we have Miss Emily Waugh, who she serves if your last name starts A through G, Miss Amy Northway, last names H through O, and Mr. Aaron Weddle, last names P through Z. We also have a social worker, Miss Heidi Zwick, who's on hand. She's here full time, which we are blessed to be able to have. These are people that reach out to our students, and our students reach out to them. Our students, we believe that we need to have constant connection with adults, whoever that might be. The people that you see on the screen right now truly are leads in supporting our students' social emotional needs, but they are outstanding resources to you as parents. You see, we understand that parenting is tough, and parenting is not something we can do alone. And we want to make sure that we have as many people supporting our students as possible, as well as the adults that go along with it. I know these people have supported me as a parent as well, and they've been wonderful. So now we're entering elementary school where they're in the same classroom, 25-ish, all day long, pretty much. Have 1 to 3 teachers all day long, pretty much. Now we're entering a building where there's over 1,000 people. So we're projected to be anywhere from 900 to 1,036 next year. The image you see right there has probably only about 950 students in there. And it's like it's a homecoming assembly there. And while it looks like 2 pictures there, it really is the one, that's what it looks like. So we're like, how does my child not get lost in the shuffle here at middle school? They're going from one classroom to now they're in a building with over 1,000 kids. That's right. But we know we take them and we put them into 3 different teams. Actually, we're now up to 3.5 different teams. So we have 6J, 6A, 6G, and now we've entered into 6S. So we've spread them out even more. So we'll break them down into half. So in the 6th grade, they're going to be about 550. And then we'll break them down into teams. And so we have represented there is 6J. Those are all the kids that you will be interacting with your child, which is about 150 students. So we take that 1,000, we knock it down to 150 just by the way we interact. We're not done there. Then we take them down to the class sizes. And just like elementary school, they're down to 25 in a class. And a 25 in a class is very manageable. Our range is actually 23 to 28 as our growth goes and the changes in the scheduling and so forth. And students are divided up into teams, pretty balanced as best we possibly can. So there's going to be all different schools represented, all different students represented in all of our teams. And so we're really excited about that. But with all that said, we talk about 1,000, we talk about 500, we talk about 143, we talk about 25 in a classroom. That sounds great, Jim. I get it. But you're worried about one person and one person only, and it's your child. We know that. We know that you're the #1 advocate for your child, and we know that we expect that out of you because it's one of those partnerships that we need to know. You need to know that we support you as a parent, and we just need support from you so that we can best support our students. And when they come to Prairie Ridge, they are our students, and we work very hard for them. And we make it a priority so that we know their names, they know who we are, and they know that we're there to support us. We don't have a lot of founded bullying situations here. And the reason for it is we spend a lot of time working with students so that they're comfortable with us to report to a parent, report to a staff member here. It is a goal of ours every year at Prairie Ridge that 100% of our students can identify a trusted adult here at school. It's not easy work, but it's the right work. We're averaging about 90, 94, 96% of our students can identify. We also target the number of kids that don't. It is vital. Every student matters here at Prairie Ridge, And we want them to feel it, know it, so they go home and they know that this is their school. And I think if you think back to all of our experiences in middle school, not all of them have been wonderful. It's our goal that when they leave Prairie Ridge next year or 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years out, whenever they're thinking about being at Prairie Ridge, that they are thinking about positive examples and they could identify people who care about them, not just next year, but the subsequent years after being at Prairie Ridge Middle School. In order for people to belong here at Prairie Ridge, they have to be involved. We talk to our fifth grade teachers, like I mentioned, they're great ambassadors. We talk about the similarities that are happening at the elementary school as they are here at Prairie Ridge. So these are just some snapshots of some of the activities we have going on here. Next year, we'll be stepping into the Leader in Me, which is language that is very common to all of our elementary students right now. We're not in the same level as they are, but we are working towards that. We're going to rely on them to help us navigate our through the waters, just like they did at the elementary school. We have kids moving throughout the day, not only to the classes, but also within the classrooms, because we know that physical movement is vital for our students. And as you can see, even with masks on, we were able to work together, we were able to collaborate, and we were able to have a successful school year. We want our kids to be involved, like I said, as much as possible. And that means that we want to expand throughout our friendships. A lot of times we'll hear, I'm not in any classes with my friends or whatever that case might be. And that may be true for the time being, but the friendships change so rapidly over the next 2 years. It'll be something that they'll need all the parental support that goes along with it. Our interest changes, our hobbies change, and then as we just click with different people along the way. They're going from being in a building of 50 to 90 kids. Now they have 500 in their class, and it's just a lot of opportunities for our students. Clearly, the most talked about concerns are for the students is getting lost in this school. It feels like a big building. It looks like a big building. Getting into their lockers, the combinations and so forth, being late to class, and then lunch. And with lunch, with all these, we're going to go through and talk a little bit about each one of these as it relates to the students, so that you know what we're talking about. When we visit the schools and visit the students, we're going to address these again. So we're going to start off with lunch.
Hi, everyone. I am Ms. Steffen. As Mr. Wichman said earlier, I get the pleasure of talking to you a little bit about lunch. So while this may be one of students' concerns, it actually ends up being probably one of the favorite parts of their day. So there are 3 lunches, and lunches run about 35 minutes, and lunches are organized by grade level teams. And so 6th graders eat with 6th graders. Our counselors do lead lunch, and students have multiple options of what they can choose to eat. So we always have what we call 2 hot entrees, and we also have some grab and go options, which could be something like a salad or a wrap, or we have containers of like crackers, cheese, grapes, carrots, things that they can choose, and there's a lot of variety. Another thing that I believe is new for middle school is they also have an option of getting a la carte and seconds. So while this is new for 6th graders, parents, please know you can get onto School Cafe. You can put a limit, or you can restrict what students can buy. That way, you know, they aren't loading their tray up with Pop-Tarts, chips, and cookies. So that is an option. We do recommend that you have that conversation with your 6th grader. And if needed, that is an option for you, that, you know, and we can help you if you need some help navigating how to do that as well. With our 35-minute lunches, I also want to assure you that students do have plenty of time to eat. So even though we're feeding over 300 kids per lunch, students do have adequate time to eat. Any time that a student needs extra time to eat because we're dismissing but they're still working on their food, we always let them finish their food, and we just provide them a pass to class. So please know that kids have plenty of time, and even if they need that extra time, we are sure to give that to them. I also want to point out that everyone gets a lunch. So, if a student maybe doesn't have any money on their lunch balance or anything like that, we do feed all students. So if your student comes home and says that they didn't get to eat, just know that they may not have gotten the a la carte and the seconds options that they wanted, but we did feed them a hot entree. We take care of teaching students the lunch expectations the first day of school, and we continue to teach and reinforce those expectations for the first couple of weeks. And students are really quick to catch on to the lunch expectations, so we just support them in that new process.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Bruns, Associate Principal. We want to just thank you guys so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. We're excited to get to know you and your students. So I get to talk to you a little bit about the L in late, which is going to be in reference to student schedules. So here is an example of a sample student schedule. Knowing that kids are transitioning into middle school often leads to some concerns about what their new schedule is going to be like. Right now, they all have one teacher that they're with for the majority of the day, with the exception of specials. But when they come to middle school and for the remainder of their secondary career in Ankeny, they will go by a class period schedule. So here's just kind of an example of a sample schedule. We can see class periods 1 through 8, and then at the end of the day, we end with an advisory. So this particular schedule, our literacy block, which students right now probably call their reading time, in middle school, we call it literacy, and that's when students get to work on both reading and language arts. And so that is our only class that consists of 2 class periods. So you can see in this schedule, that would be could potentially be first and second period. So they would go 90 minutes through that one core class. Then potentially maybe a third period on an A day, they may participate in PE. And then on a B day, on the opposite day, they may go to health. And fourth period, they might on an A day, if they choose to participate in band, maybe in band or choir or study hall. So our guidance counselors will come visit our elementary buildings in April and talk with students about registering for their courses. So this might be something in the meantime that you begin talking with them about if they're interested in pursuing band or choir in middle school, or maybe one of those or none of them, and then they would be in study hall. So something that you as a family can start talking about as well. Our students go to participate in a 35-minute lunch, as Ms. Steffen just shared. And then after that, they may have a math class, which they would have every day, and then potentially a science class, a social studies class, and then our exploratories is where our students get to do that. They get to just explore some classes. And so in 6th grade, our students will rotate through 1 quarter of French, 1 quarter of Spanish, 1 quarter of art, and 1 quarter of FCS or family consumer science. And so 1 quarter equals 9 weeks. Now, their order may not be exactly as I shared, but those will be the 4 different exploratories that they'll rotate through. And then they'll get to participate in advisory at the end of the day. One thing that's a little bit different than elementary is at Prairie Ridge, we start quite a bit later. So our first bell actually rings at 8:30, and then our day ends at 3:45. Students do have a 4-minute passing period in between their classes. One thing Mr. Wichman talked about earlier was the concept of a team. So one thing we've worked really hard at is ensuring that all of their core classes, which would be that literacy, math, science, and social studies, are really all together in the same hallway. So students aren't transitioning from one end of the building to another end of the building to another end of the building to another end of the building. A lot of those core classes are all really close to each other. Now, knowing that this is a big transition with their day, for the first couple of weeks, we have a lot of extra adults on hand. We will have adults that are out in the hallway between every passing period, guiding students to their classes, supporting them to where they go. We will also have lead counsel students, which your student will have an opportunity to participate in 7th grade. They will help get students where they need to be. But for the very first day of school, all students really need to know is their advisory teacher. So when those schedules are released at the beginning of August, please just make sure that they understand who their advisory teacher is, and that's kind of like their homeroom teacher. All right. At any building, and I know Rock Creek this year has had their fair share of difficulties with drop off and pickup. I happen to be a parent there, so I understand that that struggle has been kind of real this year. But just like any other school, drop off and pickup can be a pretty tricky procedure. But with the help of everyone, we've been able to figure out a really good path for both our buses and for our drop off and pickup and for our student dismissal. Our buses are going to drop off and pick up in the front of the building where you can see the staff parking lot. That's the main entrance, is where buses only will drop off and pick up. Parents are going to drop off and pick up in the northeast parking lot right by the tennis courts. We also have designated sidewalks for our walkers and our bikers. And then we also have a couple of bike racks for those students who choose to ride their bike. I would encourage you to send a lock for your bike if you are going to do that. Now, of course, this isn't the first time you're going to see this map. We will send out a map for you. We'll start posting it on our Instagram posts and our Facebook and all of those different social media posts that we use.
So when we talk about lockers, I know this is exactly what the kids see when they think about the lockers. How am I going to get into the locker? And how do I do it between classes and so forth? However, told you since the 80s, lockers haven't changed. And this is actually what we're talking about the lockers looking like. So it hasn't changed, mom and dad. So if you look at your child and they're saying, I don't know how to get into that locker, they haven't changed. So what we have partnered with our 5th grade teachers on is very simple. We make sure they all have lockers and then just practice the process of turning to the right, to the left, to the right. So it's just another step of how we're transitioning students into Prairie Ridge and partnering up with our elementary schools. I have to point out this picture here was the gentleman on the left. It was a 6th grader, and he couldn't get into his locker. I couldn't get into the locker either as the principal. But then Megan here happened to walk by, who had a brother entering the school, and she was able to get in the locker. So our alum is still there to help us out when we couldn't get in there. Now, with that said, the pandemic has actually caused us to think about lockers differently than we have in the past. And so what we're doing with the lockers is we're going to operate next year like we are operating this year, where students will be able to access their lockers before school and after school. So what that means is really we're talking about umbrellas, coats, stocking caps. That's the only thing that'll need to be kept in the locker. So the days of decorating the lockers, we've all passed that. And really it's just a storage for coats or outerwear. Our students are going to carry their backpacks, which is something we never allowed in the past. We are having them carry all their school supplies in their backpack. Now, when we say school supplies, we're talking we've minimalized. They have a computer, they have folders, they have paper, they have pencils, and that's really all they should be carrying around. We don't have textbooks. We also are encouraging, different than the years past, is that parents do not buy binders. Binders are simply more weight. Their backpack is going to serve as their binder. So to help us out, while we've lightened the load as much as possible, to help us out, we're going to ask you to kind of go through the backpack on a regular basis to kind of filter out what's not needed and so forth with that. Also with school supplies, both Parkview and Prairie Ridge are going to give parents the option of ordering supplies where it comes all in one, so you don't have to shop for them, much like you've done at I think all the elementaries have offered that up in the past. So that's something new we're trying this year. So be looking for that information, and we'll be pushing it out through your elementary mail and so forth. So again, the lockers, we even put the locker combination on the lockers, so they won't have to memorize any of that combination. They're all on camera. It's all safe. They will be having to share. We're projecting that they will be able to have to share with someone. They will not get their locker assignment until they get to school. So that's going to be one of the first steps we do, which is different in the years past. That's one of the things they're going to do the first day. I think Ms. Bruns talked about knowing the advisory teacher. That advisory teacher is going to walk them through and practice the locker. Their lockers are going to be right outside the advisory teacher's door or in close proximity to it with that. So real quickly, locker combination is on the locker. Lockers are used before school and after school. The kids are going to practice that. You can practice the combinations over the summer, and we're going to have the combination on there so kids don't have to memorize it. I see people waving. I'm just pretending that you guys are waving at me, so I'm going to wave back. You in the orange shirt there. I see you. That's a great smile.
All right, so one of the number one concerns of our incoming sixth graders is just the fact that they are going to get lost. And so that is a very valid concern coming from an elementary school that they've maybe been in for multiple years to a brand new school that looks and seems a lot bigger. So as Ms. Bruns already highlighted, we have a lot of additional support those first few days and weeks of getting kids to classes and helping them navigate the hallways and knowing where to go. One of the things that is newer in the last couple of years is we have also added color coordination to our hallways. So that also has really helped not just students, but staff and visitors know the directions of the building as well. So for example, we have a first floor purple hallway. So it's really easy to say, hey, you're going to go straight and you're going to go down the purple hallway. And those kinds of navigational tools has been extremely helpful in the building. The colors help kids remember, where their classroom is. Some students go through their schedule and they'll actually write, next to this portion of their schedule, it's in the blue hallway and this one's in the green hallway. Another piece that is really nice with having teams is that a lot of those classrooms are very close together. So, one team's, all of those classrooms are, they might be in the orange hallway. And so a lot of times the classes are just very close in proximity as well. So that feeling of being lost really diminishes once they get into the building, walk their schedule, and see where their classrooms are.
At Prairie Ridge, we use the same common expectations as the rest of our buildings, so your child should be very familiar with these. We use the terms JAG culture, and it's just the same as PBIS. And so our same common expectations are being responsible, being respectful, and being safe. Our goals with these expectations are mainly to ensure student safety. Mr. Wichman mentioned earlier that student safety is our number one concern. Our goal is to always make sure all of our students are safe and feel welcome at our building. We always want to make sure we're using these expectations so that we can be as proactive as possible. We teach our students these expected behaviors, and then we always want to make sure we acknowledge that positive behavior when it's being shown. We always want to make sure that no matter what setting your students are in, whether it be PE on an A day, fourth period, or maybe they're in literacy first and second period, that they're hearing that common, consistent language as they are in all of their classes.
So we do have a lot of opportunities during the school day, and one of the things that we have really continued to grow over the years is just the opportunities for students outside of the school day. So here is just an example list of some of the things that are available for students to get involved in outside of the school day. So things like participating in school plays, being a part of our yearbook committee, student-led clubs. So really any student can create a club and we can find a way to make that club happen and they actually get to lead that. And so that's been really neat to see. We've had things like climate club and some just different really unique opportunities. We do have a JAG store, which is where students can spend some of their school money that we provide, or they can buy different items. And so that's fun. And we have students that also work the JAG store. Expeditions, I'll talk about here in a second. We do have community engagement courses at the middle school level as well. So you are probably used to community engagement classes at the elementary level. Lead Council, which is for 7th graders, is more of like a leadership group. Random Acts of Kindness is a club that we also have, and Jaguar Running Club, and actually just today we started Girls on the Run. So there's a lot more activities and things that happen that we will continue to share with you throughout the school year. So expeditions are after school activities for students that are created and hosted by teachers. And so these are really unique opportunities for students to be able to participate with staff outside of the classroom and in other peers that maybe they don't see throughout their day. They are held on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school for a total of 3 weeks. And once that 3-week rotation is done, then we rotate to some new expedition offerings. Some of our past examples you can see on the screen there would include coding. If you love Harry Potter, we have a really awesome Harry Potter expedition that we've done in the past. Card games, mythology, scrapbooking, weightlifting. We actually had our spring expeditions start today, and so we were really excited to be able to start offering those again. And that included things like weightlifting. We have some boys football going on, some board games. And so it's just a really, like I said, a really great opportunity for students just to interact with staff and peers outside of the classroom. We always send expedition and really any activity information through our parent newsletters, and those come out every Friday. So come August, keep an eye on your email for those parent newsletters, and that's where you will receive that activity information to be able to register your student or even just know who to contact if you have more questions.
All right, technology. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about Chromebooks, and then Ms. Stefan will talk a little bit about some of our other technology expectations. We know that technology continues to be an area that our students get better and better at. I don't know about you, but I think my 3 and my 7-year-old can navigate their technology probably just as easily as I can. So we know that kids are just really, really good at it. And along with that, there can be, a lot of positive things that come out of it. And we also know that there are times where sometimes students don't make as good of choices. And so we're really going to ask you to partner with us on some of those things as well. Your student's current Chromebook will transition with them when they come to middle school. So you will get to keep that, have the opportunity to keep that throughout the summer. And then that will be their Chromebook that they have for next year. Couple of recommended apps that we would really encourage you to have and use is the Infinite Campus Parent Portal account. Now, we know that COVID has had some negative impacts, but one of the positive ones has been that we know that parents have accessed this feature a lot more and have become a lot more accustomed to using it. This is where you're going to be able to stay current with student progress toward meeting their standards, along with potentially any missing assignments or things like that. That's definitely going to be something new from elementary school, that probably isn't a feature. Infinite Campus probably isn't a place that teachers have had you access as often, but with your student coming and potentially having 8 to 10 new teachers, that will definitely be, that's a good communication piece that you will definitely want to make sure you access is that Infinite Campus Parent Portal account. We'll also, you currently are receiving a securely report at least once a week. We highly, highly encourage you to just ensure that you're checking that to make sure that your student is using that that district issued Chromebook correctly, that they're using it appropriately, and just making sure that they're being safe with it. Our students are going to mostly use all Google apps next year. That's going to include Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, Gmail, Calendar. We may introduce them to Google Keep as a form of kind of a planner or a way to keep themselves organized. This is where they'll access a lot of their curriculum and a lot of their assignments as well. Our teams do a wonderful job at trying to have one spot, which they call a team agenda, and they'll provide that weekly. And so what that'll do is it's kind of a one-stop shop that you'll have access to. It's going to have all of your students' classes within the team and any assignments or upcoming events or any of those pieces. So you'll want to make sure that you ask your student about that weekly and that you're able to access that as well. Finally, their district is going to be transitioning to a new platform called Canvas next school year. There will be more information that's going to come on that. So you'll just want to make sure that if you see any information coming out from Canvas from the district and from us, that you make sure that you look at that information.
Okay, so I threw a curveball. While not Miss Stefan, it's going to be me that gets to talk about cell phones, one of my favorite topics of all time, as a parent and as a principal. I say middle school students are the same. They haven't changed. They haven't. Yeah, before paper and pencil, before technology, it was paper and pencil that we did with the notes and very creative by the folds and everything. You remember it. You probably can, some of you guys can probably still fold those notes a certain way. But first of all, I got to get a shout out to someone who's been smiling as often as possible. She's wearing a little orange, green, pink shirt. I'm not sure. And her window says Brad H on it. So that's one person I definitely am going to get to know who that is. Always have had a smile on her face. I love that. So anyway, back to cell phones. Great tool, love it. Our students struggle with them, and we need to know that. We put it in our hands. First thing I say to remind children is it's not your cell phone, that's your parent's cell phone. So keep that in mind, and we're always going to work with you on that. And that goes along with what Ms. Bruns was saying. Anytime that you need a password that you don't have, parents get access to everything with their child securely. Here at school, we're going to partner up on this one. They need our support. So what I'm going to say about the cell phones, first of all, for all the parents, I'm a lot better principal than I am parent, but what I'm going to share with you is get nosy on your phone, set expectations for them, and remember it's your phone, not theirs. And I say that because there becomes like a slight addiction to the phone, like we all probably have. We just need to make sure that we understand that the brain, the rational side of the brain of the child isn't fully developed yet. And so if we put a phone in their hand, there are some dangers that come along with that, and we got to be prepared to work through that. School cell phone expectations here at Prairie Ridge is that they're off or silent. We prefer off. We are okay with them carrying it with them as long as they don't get it out, especially in the bathroom and the locker rooms, which I'm not sure the locker rooms are going to be in picture anymore, but we want to make sure that that is going to be one of the expectations. They are able to use the cell phone with adult permission. Please go over that with them. So in the middle of the class, or you might be texting them, that's okay. I get it. We just need to make sure that they just ask for permission. And that's just it's a good way to navigate through that. We do know that kids are sneaky and kids are going to make those mistakes that Ms. Bruns has talked about. We want to work with them and coach with them. When there's a problem, when the phone becomes too much of a distraction to the learning environment for your child, we have a great system where we check the phone in the morning. It sits on the desk, visible, it's right on camera, and then just check it up, pick it up on the way out the door. We can do that if you ask us, and then just know that we may insist that your child do that as well for certain periods of time if they demonstrate that they struggle with keeping the phone where it needs to be, off and out of sight. Your child, like we mentioned, and Ms. Bruns mentioned a bunch of different other apps that they might use their phone with. I can't stress enough to be nosy in their business when it comes to social media, especially with the YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Boy, we've evolved because Facebook doesn't even make this list anymore. That's crazy. Also probably shows my age. The other part of that is you learn a lot of things. For example, on Instagram, a parent lesson learned that there's an Instagram for everybody, and parents say, oh, I'm part of my child's Instagram. I see everything they post. It's great. It's wonderful. However, there's an underground Instagram as well. I call it Finstagram, fake Instagram. I think that there's another name for it, and that's usually a smaller group of people, and they post a lot of things on there. So just be wise to all that. The kids are very savvy. I think that Ms. Bruns talked about her kids being very savvy. Well, my 23, 19, and 14-year-old are very savvy as well, and we just want to make sure that we don't look for kids to make mistakes, but we want to support them and try to be as proactive as possible. And then when we have to be reactive, we certainly can be. So again, anything that we can do to support you, and then we want to be advocates in supporting all of you as well.
All right, so as we kind of wrap down to the end of the orientation, I get the pleasure of talking about JAG Camp. It is one of my most favorite events of the school year. I know Ms. Bruns and Mr. Wichman would agree as well. This is a great event for our incoming sixth graders, and it is really an opportunity before the school year even starts to get students into the building, get them interacting with some of those students from different elementary schools, get them more acclimated to the layout of the building. And it really just helps build our culture. And I can tell you that in the past, we've brought students into the building, into the gym to start the morning. It's been really quiet, kind of awkward. And once we do our team building activities and just all of the things that goes along with JAG Camp, such as a picnic, while the morning starts super quiet, just the energy and the buzz throughout the building when we are kind of wrapping up JAG Camp it's amazing. So it's just a really great opportunity. We send dates and information about JAG Camp directly to you in July. And so just be watching for that information. If your student is able to attend, we highly encourage that they do, because it kind of takes away some of that nervous energy that they may have about school and really puts them in a position where they can meet some of their peers prior to the school year starting, meet some of their teachers prior to the school year, and get into the building. As you know, last summer, we weren't able to do our typical JAG Camp, but we still held what we called our JAG Camp drive-through parade. And that was an opportunity for students to still come through our school parking lots, see teachers. They got a t-shirt, they got a swag bag or a JAG bag. with just a lot of resources, including a virtual tour. So while we don't know what this summer may look like yet for us, please know that no matter the circumstance, having that opportunity for sixth graders is so important to us. And so whether it's our normal JAG camp or our drive-through parade that we do, we just look forward to providing a really unique opportunity for all students as they transition to our building.
So finally, I say this again, safety, social emotional needs, and academics, the whole child. I usually start off when we're in person and talk about my story of my now 23-year-old, but I remember her being 8 weeks old and driving her to daycare for the very first time. And I was teaching in Urbandale. My wife was at school, and I dropped her off at the daycare. It was Kari. And didn't really know Kari, but I felt kind of safe with Kari. But I gave her my 8-week-old baby, and I trusted her with everything I had, and that was scary as can be. And I can remember crying all the way to school, just scared of what I just did. I handed over my one child to Kari to take care of and nurture all day long. But we see it as you're doing that to us. You're giving us a child, whether it be your first, second, third, fourth, whatever it might be. And I want you to know we hold that very securely, and we want to honor that by making sure that your child is safe. And if there's ever any needs that you have, you're going to reach out to us so that we can do the best we possibly can to support them. It's a safety that you guys don't know who Jim Wichman is if you haven't been here, but you will know not only who Jim Wichman is, but you're going to know who Kathleen Steffen is. You're going to know who Andrea Bruns is, and you're going to know who the counselors are and your advisory teacher. We're going to make it a part of that. We want to make sure that your students do. We ask that you please reach out to people that have been here. Again, it hasn't been utopia all the time. We're middle school. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a time of learning and growing. But we're going to continue to strive for that so that your child will have a great first day of school and a great 360th day of school when they're done with 7th grade. We're not certain about what August brings, but we are certain is that you're going to be turning over your child on a daily basis to some of the most caring adults that you possibly can find in the state. 26 years of being in administration, and I know that this is one of the best places you could send a child. Thank you for being here tonight. We ask and invite you all to any questions that you might have. You can either beep on or put it in the chat room. Either way, we're here to answer. We have all three of us that one of us is going to know the answer. So we're going to stay on a little bit. By the way, I'm not sure what your name is, but Brad H. in the orange, thank you for all the smiles today. I don't know if it's orange or pink. I can't really tell. Can you give me a little wave there? Can't wave to me? Come on. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, everybody. But please reach out, beep on if you have any questions. That's what this is for.
Is ELP offered? How does this fit into the
So the question is ELP offered and how does it fit into the schedule? We do have an extended learning program here. The ELP teacher at the elementary school communicates with Ms. Larpenter, the ELP teacher here, and they coordinate everything. So they'll take care of all that behind the scenes, so to speak. And parents, you won't have to do anything about it. We'll take care of Ms. Larpenter. The ELP teachers do a great job of communicating all that.
They're doing PE uniforms.
So the question is the PE uniforms. At this time, you know, business is normal. They would be doing PE uniforms, but a decision hasn't been completely made about that yet. And so just kind of say, I wouldn't go out and purchase anything just yet on the PE uniforms. We did not have any changing at this time. Question on there about, do the students carry notebooks? Well, we're going to ask if the school supply list is, I think it's already posted on there. Really, it's notebooks, it's paper, it's folders, and pencils, and they all fits into the backpack. Class periods, all of them are about 44 minutes long, except for literacy, and literacy is double that. So about 90 minutes is kind of what we talk about there with that. JAG Camp is going to be mid-August. We'd like to do that right before, so that's a great time for people to be to come together and kind of get to know people from different schools. It is a great event. Twins, be separated entirely, put into teams. We have actually operated a lot of different ways with that. you can just send an email to Ms. Bruns and she can help navigate that. So a lot of times the twins are on the same team, but we shuffle up their schedule so that they can get just kind of the same message and so forth, keep it consistent. But we also want to honor their individuality as to, again, just ask questions. Athletic programs, we do not have athletic programs in 6th and 7th grade, but we do have the expeditions that were mentioned. And so we're hoping to expand on that a lot in the future there. Yeah, so the counselors about visiting the classrooms and going over their schedule, really keep in mind the only options kids have are band and choir. For the remote students, that's a great question. One, again, that they're going to host the opportunity as well for them. So they're going to look at the remote schedule, and then they're going to jump onto one of those sessions, probably in a literacy class or something like that. So they are going to get catered to as well. Oh, what time is school drop off? That's a great question. I know that Ms. Bruns went over that. Here's the inside track. So you can't tell your friends this, but here's the inside track. So you don't have to wait in line. Drop off your child between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning. You're in and out of the parking lot in probably seconds. 8 to 8:05, 8 to 8:10, you're in there about minutes. Anything after 8:10 to 8:25, it's probably about 10 minutes. So keep in mind, just a little bit earlier and you're in and out of the parking lot. After school gets a little tricky, but we have, we've got a pretty good system, the best system I think we can with the volume of people we have. The masks, I have no information on that at this time. I'm always going to assume that how we end is how we'll start. And then anything changes on that, we will definitely be sharing that information with everybody. Yeah, go ahead, thanks.
Okay, some of the questions are our expeditions presented to the students, and the answer is yes. So we do present expeditions through advisory, that advisory time that we mentioned at the end of the day. And so we usually plug expeditions for, 3 to 4 weeks prior to those starting so that students know, and then you also know. So we try and inform both parties so that we can, gain as many students involved as possible. Next question is, are all 6th grade classes on the first floor? And the answer is no. Most 6th grade classes are on the first floor, with the exception of, modern language and health are upstairs. And so for the most part, your student will be on one floor, but they will travel upstairs for a couple of classes. Students will be can be dropped off as early as 7:30 in the morning. Question of, will kids be able to tour the school before the school year starts? That is always our goal. And so we will just communicate everything that we can in August so that you know when those opportunities are and what that opportunity will look like. Do students go to the gym if they come to school early? Yes, on a typical year, that is how we do that, is that students start in the gym and then are dismissed to their class. If dropped off at 7:30, the building is open at 7:30. So it's not like if you drop off at 7:30, they have to stand outside. The doors open at 7:30 for students to enter the building. They can do breakfast, they can wait in the gym. And so there are a couple of options for them. Bus passes are handed out, I believe, the first day of school. So they will get their bus pass on the first day of school, and that will come from their advisory teacher. And so far, that's all the questions that we have in the chat. So if you have another question that we haven't answered yet, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I believe that is all of the questions that we have so far. What do they do in advisory? So we do a couple of different things. So we do things called like Management Monday, and that's an opportunity for students to learn some different organizational skills and, stay organized, go through their agenda, go through, what upcoming homework that they may have. They do some Team Tuesday, which would be, advisory games and activities as a team, building community. We have what we call Thoughtful Thursday, which is more of like a social emotional lesson. So most recently we talked about empathy. So that's an example. And Fridays are fun Fridays. So there's, we have some advisories that do dodgeball tournaments, or, maybe they go outside. So fun Fridays are usually directed by students of some different things that they would like to do as an advisory. The next question I see is, can students do both band and choir? And the answer is yes. Let's just say on an A day, they'll be involved in band, and on a B day, they'll be involved in choir. They would not have a study hall in that situation. So if a student only does band, then they'll have 1 day of study hall, or if they only do choir, they'll have 1 day of study hall. If they do both, they just won't have a study hall. So hopefully that.
I'm going to add something about study hall in there. And study hall, just know that it's the same amount of work. It's not extra work because they're coming to a different building. It's the same amount of work. If they use their time wisely in school, they won't have any homework, or very little homework. They'll have some, but not very a lot. And then if they don't, then they'll have more. A lot of times study hall is a time that kids read books. They do get caught up on work if they do, but they don't have that. So it's really kind of a tough time for kids to get through if they're not involved. Questions about gum allowed? Gum is allowed as long as it's used appropriately. So there's some classrooms like band, choir, no gum, lunchroom, no gum. But other than that, they have, yes, kids can chew gum. It's very much encouraged as well. Wednesday late arrival, it's 1 hour late, so it's 9:30. But 3:45 is still stays consistent. So it's everything, the bus time, whatever that is, it's 1 hour late. And the doors will open at 8:30 on that one. Average homework, it really just depends on the child. At school, like I mentioned, the more the on task they are at school, the less homework they're going to have. Anything over an hour would be kind of a surprise with that. Yeah, probably even 30 minutes or less. Because we understand the whole child concept again. Dress codes are going to be the same as they are in the elementary. We do ask as kids physically mature that we are mindful of that as well when we're picking out and monitoring their attire. Kids can wear hats to school. They can wear hats from school. They can wear hats during school, and that includes hoods as well. So just they can't earn that though. They have an opportunity through the JAG store to purchase a sticker that, I say purchase, I mean from a behavior or PBIS process here, that they can earn the opportunity to wear hats during school. Believe bikers, walkers, our doors are open. Pretty much all of them are in the morning. We want kids here from 7:30 to 8 o'clock as best we possibly can so that they're ready to go by 8:30. I think we got it all. If you have any additional questions, please send them our way. But we just want you to know that Ms. Bruns, Ms. Steffen, and I, we appreciate you being here and being a part of the very first remote parent orientation. And I hope it's the very last parent orientation that we have this way. Thank you so much. There's one little last question about lockers. They're going to be sitting with their advisory. Probably won't be sharing at that time, but we're still working on some details on that. But again, keep the questions coming. We thank you very much. And we look forward to serving not only your child, but your child's family, all of you as well. We look forward to seeing them in their elementary school later in April. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for all the compliments out there.